All right, welcome to the Open Space Committee meeting, December 2nd, 2020. I wanted to call the meeting to order, and I wanted to see if we had any public audience today. No? Okay. And next we've got two sets of minutes to approve. The first are a set of revised minutes from September 2nd. I wanted to see if they look good or if anyone had any proposed changes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Oh, Helen abstained. Okay. The approval of minutes from November 4th. Did anyone have feedback from the minutes from the latest meeting? Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Bill Rice will second.
Right, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
abstained at the wrong time.
oh, you meant to abstain on that one. Okay.
Yes, not the first one. I approved the first one. I abstained on the second one.
All right,
I'm
well,
sorry about that.
Reflect that. No problem. Okay, great. So we really have sort of one meatier agenda item, and that's an update from the policies work group looking at the RFP process for agriculture leases. And I understand, Marjorie, that there was some work done earlier this week, and would you be ready to share your screen?
Yes. Let me find it. We had in our work group, we had come up with, I'm just trying to find it while I speak. We had looked at RFPs. I think it was Town of Mansfield and Town of Wallingford. We looked at their lease program and their RFP. And I think I took the Town of Mansfield lease. Oh dear. Let me open it, get to it, so I can share my screen. Hold on. So what we did, was just sort of combined what we had from them. I'm sorry, I should have had this already. Hold on.
Marjorie, while you're looking for that,
Yes.
I didn't see in the attachments the document that we looked at, the application form. Was that something we were going to, because that was what we spent a bunch of time on.
License for the application, it is. It's on the second page of the, there's a request for proposal. Is that, the license application is on the second page. It's
Okay, let me look at that. Okay.
document. All right, so I found it. So let me see if I can share my screen now. Let me get back to the Zoom. So I can share screen. All right. So we had a, can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so there was some, I didn't catch that. There's a 6-year license agreement. I think we were going to go for a 5. There were some things that needed to be filled in for the, and also whether on the first page, it says the application would be due no later than January 31st. Is that sufficient? And then it said the applicant had to be notified by March 15th. And I was wondering, is that sufficient time for the farmer? Or do they need to know sooner?
I think you could move that up to mid-January and go with a mid-February.
That sounds better to me. This is the one from the Manchester one, and I thought that would be, yeah. So mid-January, all right.
Is March 15th a little bit too late for farmers to work?
That's what I was thinking, in order to plan. So we could move that up to, did you say mid-February or?
Sort of back up those dates collectively, back up the whole thing?
Yeah, so if we do it, would that be sufficient, January 15th to February 15th?
Yeah,
Could you ask
change
the farmers how, may I, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, would it be appropriate to ask the farmers to suggest what the dates should be for their comfort level?
Mm-hmm.
I think right now they're just trying to find dates that would suit the process right now, because we need to get one of our pieces leased.
So, yeah, understood.
So I guess we should make the date to submit as soon as seems reasonable, and make the date to notify the applicants as soon after that as seems reasonable. So I don't know. I think these dates are pretty good, but unless anyone thinks they could be quicker.
I would recommend, if you keep the dates similar to what we have now, I would move it to February 12th, which is a Friday, versus
Okay,
the following Monday.
Okay.
A little bit earlier.
all right, that works. And then who do they submit the proposal to?
That's up to Maria. In the past, this has been done, the last few times it's been done through the town engineer's office. I don't know if that's something that she desires to keep on his plate. I know Tom Hazel's been working on some of this too.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say maybe we could leave that open and just maybe leave it highlighted and flagged. And I can kind of work through that with Tom, Hazel, and Tom in my office to see if maybe planning might be the point of collection, or sometimes our graduate student intern will help us with managing various RFQ or RFP processes, and that's really helpful. So we'll definitely find a home for it. So maybe we could just flag it and we'll find a home. It'll probably be my office, I think, or planning.
Okay, all right. And then the other part of the application, let's see if I can get it. We had, let's sort of discuss this at the work group. The applicant's name, the farm, the Simsbury property name, just on the top, just so it's easy to identify. Their agricultural operation experience, their, what they've done to manage an agricultural property, the past experience. This is pulled from the other application. The name of the property you're applying to lease or license, intended use of the property, how does this fit with your business plan, what is your stewardship plan for the property, how would you use the property to benefit the citizens of Simsbury. That's what was on the one that we pulled from. Other information we'd like to provide, this is something we added in consideration of the proposal. And then interestingly, the RFP that we modeled this on didn't have a bid fee structure. So this is, I took from what Tom Taberski sent, modeled it after that. And then I'm not sure if we need all this, is the non-collusion affidavit. I'm not sure if that's applicable. Again, I was just copying what we had and then the information as well. And then under one of the RFPs, there was an exception. I think on Tom's, in yours, there was an exception. And I think also on the Manchester or Wallingford, one of the RFPs, there was an exception for the bid. But I wasn't quite sure whether we needed that or wanted it.
Seems like a special case. Maybe we shouldn't put it on every application.
So a couple things, maybe you already mentioned, but on the first page, the second paragraph refers to the Mansfield.
Oh, it's still Mansfield in there?
Yeah, Mansfield agricultural land use
it does.
policy.
Yes.
So is there a Simsbury agricultural land use agreement policy?
Well, that was another thing that we were working on and we only had the meeting on Monday, so we haven't had a chance to review it and get comments on it.
But you expect that there will be that document?
We do want to have, because we want the RFP to be simple, but we want to also explain to the farmers what we would like to see happen on the land, certain agricultural best management practices. And one of the attachments that I sent did have a whole list culled from both the Manchester and the Wallingford things. But we also I think we also wanted to put in some other organic farming things, but that would ideally go along with this application form. So it would give the farmer an idea of what kind of things we would like to see for management on the
Yeah.
farmland.
Okay, on the third, I think it's the third or fourth page of the application, the fee schedule.
Mhm.
Are the fees identified someplace?
No,
So are we expecting the applicant to fill this in?
I think that's been what's been happening in the past. If we bids from the various
Bid.
farmers to lease the land.
Okay.
Susan.
Can we go back to the paragraph that Bill was just talking about on the first page? I had two things on that paragraph. One thing was, oh my eyes. So one thing I was wondering about is sort of making this exclusively for established farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's kind of like, how do you get a job if you've never had a job? And I would like to see some language to say that we'll also consider applications from startup farmers. Anyway, I just like to leave that open. I don't know what other people think, but.
That's neat, Susan. I would have to trust people more knowledgeable than myself, really, how to vet folks and make sure that they're qualified to be startups, if that makes sense. But I like the concept you're going for.
So do you want that in the front, in the first page, or in the further in the application?
I was thinking it probably should be up here in the first page so people aren't discouraged right at the very beginning.
All right.
I don't have a good language in my mind right now for that. But I have another little thing on this page because we talked about having a rolling 5-year lease.
Yeah.
Susan, before you get to that
Oh.
one, could I just ask a question about the the so-called startup farmer? Do you want to give any preference to that, or you just want to make a statement that says, not only established farmers, but someone relatively new will also be considered? Because I think somewhere else in here, there was words about giving preference to something.
It says
I think organic.
Yeah, preference for organic, and it says here, preference given to applicants with a strong stewardship plan. I think maybe we could do is just make the first sentence, applicants can be regularly established in farming, but may also be trying to start a farm or something like that. Just make it very gentle on that term, because I also don't want to disadvantage the long-term farmers who have been taking care of the town farmland.
Yeah.
Which relates to the second point about the rolling deadline and not a hard stop 5-year lease, because this language on the front page makes it sound like a 5-year lease. And at the end of that, there would be another RFP. And our intent is to make it a rolling 5-year lease that can be broken by the farmer at any time, but so that the farmer always knows they have up to a 5-year time horizon if they want that.
I have a question.
Sorry,
waiting for you, Helen.
Helen, please.
Can I ask my question?
Yes.
Okay. I'm speaking off the top of my head here. I should have requested a hard copy so I could have read this ahead of time since it didn't come in the packet. But when you used the term just now, the startup farmer, that brought a thought to my head. This particular document is a legal document. It is a business document. When you are thinking that you might have a startup farmer be new to the community or new to the, field of agriculture, where does that individual have the benefit of reading and understanding the policy that you're sort of working on here at the same time? Where would that particular individual go to? How would that fit into the process? Because it can't all be in this business document. You can allude to it, refer to it in the business document, but a policy should be in place, correct? I'm sort of missing something here.
Well, that was the goal that we talked about on Monday, is to have that as an attachment.
I'm not catching, go slowly.
On Monday, when we were discussing this, we've only put this together since Monday. We discussed having that as an attachment to the RFP.
Having it attached.
Attached to the RFP.
Okay, thank you.
This is David Bush. That I might just suggest in simple language would be farmers of all level of experience are encouraged to apply.
That would be very good.
That's good.
Sure. I wonder if one way to deal with the new farmer is maybe say inexperienced farmers may be given a shorter leash at our discretion, something like that. I don't know if that might be something to consider for an unproven farmer.
I think it would be a good idea to have something that in order to be able to exit great agreement. I think there should be like a stepped leasing. Let's say after somebody's satisfied the town after 5 years, then you can, speed up his leasing or do it individually. But as to a startup person, you might want to limit it to a startup, to a limited, until such time as the town feels comfortable to continue it.
Again, David Bush, perhaps language along the lines of the town has the discretion to determine the length of lease based upon the experience of the applicant.
That's good.
Nice.
All right, say it again.
Good.
It's amazing what you can do when you're driving.
Dave, I'm really glad that someone let you into this meeting. This is very helpful.
Yeah, if you got here just in time, Dave.
Something around the lines of the town has discretion on the length of the lease based on
The town retains the discretion to determine the length of the lease based upon the applicant's level of experience.
Dave, it sounds like, just like a lawyer.
Sorry, that's got sometimes you get stuck with that stuff. You can't get rid of it.
I like it. Sounds good.
That in, why put that qualifier in there? Why don't you just say the town has the discretion?
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right, so not on the level of the and
I would not put that qualifier in.
all right, not on the level of experience. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe we should say we'll execute up to a rolling 5-year lease agreement, and then that fixes that problem too.
Okay.
I was talking about the next paragraph, but anyway, I don't want to take up this whole meeting worrying about these tiny.
Oh, I'll change that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
So my other question is, I think that we were going to try and approve this today because you guys need to mobilize the RFP. So Maria, you said we weren't taking any action today, but I think we're trying to approve that. Is that true?
No, I think, sure.
Is it possible that you can use the document that you've worked on with that qualifier, say that there's a possibility or there is a work in progress to, let's say, change the leasing process or whatever. You could put the qualifier there. If that's necessary to be comfortable.
I think what would probably be most helpful for us today would just be to sort of have directional support from this group. We technically, to issue an RFP or RFQ, we don't need any sort of formal action from this committee, but I do think that the input is definitely very, very helpful, and the level of expertise that folks bring. So I think if we have, again, sort of directional support, at that point, maybe, the work group and myself and Tom and Tom, we can kind of go through it and start doing some formatting now, just to make sure that we're including components that we include in various RFP documents and RFQ documents that we issue, and just again making sure that everything is consistent with our purchasing policies. So I think we'll still need to do sort of another level of review, but again, if the group sort of, I think, had some directional support for us heading in this direction and just some general feedback for today, that would be very helpful.
Excellent. Yeah, as we said, we started this on Monday. So it hasn't gone through any review, and there are a lot of things that I just didn't know how quite to handle. So yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure we did what we were supposed to do today.
Yeah, to keep the process moving forward.
Yep.
Okay, good. Anything else on this item before I move on? Awesome. Well, thank you to the work group and for getting us to this point. This is great. Okay, so we have two oral reports. The first one is Meadowwood, and I wanted to see if Maria, would you mind starting with that one?
Sure. So the main item over the last few weeks that we have been working on is assessing the various barns that are on the property. And our building official, Henry Miga, has been very helpful with that, as well as the Trust for Public Land. And again, we're really trying to start to determine of the barns that are there, how many could we realistically save and preserve, how many might be able to be used for farming purposes versus which ones are really just truly, too far gone, too dilapidated to really be saved. So we're really kind of working through that process now. One thing that's really terrific is that the Trust for Public Land, through a state grant, as well as some funds, I believe, from a private foundation, there's definitely some funding available to us for some of the barns if we are able to, in fact, save and preserve them to do some restoration work. So that's very encouraging. And we'll also be looking at perhaps submitting a grant to the State Office of Preservation that would enable more of a structural engineering analysis of those barns that we think that we may be able to preserve. And that would be at no cost to us if we are successful in obtaining that grant. So I think some really good work happening with the barns. And that's kind of what I've got on Meadowwood right now.
Yeah. Are there questions? Okay. The other item is the disposition of an open space parcel at 133 Holcomb Street. I'll start with the update, and perhaps, Maria, you could fill in. At our last meeting, the Board of Selectmen approved an agreement where there's two parts to it. We would purchase an easement along 315 for a bike path, and we would also sell slightly less than an acre of open space behind 133 Holcomb Street. What I haven't heard yet is whether the owner of 133 Holcomb has signed the paperwork yet. Maria, I didn't know if you could give me an update on that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again, that last statement?
Yeah, I just wasn't, the Board of Selectmen approved the agreement. I didn't know if it had been fully executed yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you said something at the very end there about the owner, something.
I didn't know if the agreement had been signed yet by all parties.
Okay, thank you.
And Maria, you said it has not.
It has not been executed yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions there? Okay.
Are there any particular, David Bush, any particular issues that remain to be resolved in order to get it signed?
The board of selectmen approved the agreement. I didn't know if the agreement had been signed yet by all parties. And Maria, you said it has not. It has not been executed yet. Okay. Are there any questions there? Okay.
Are there any particular issues that remain to be resolved in order to get it signed?
From the Board of Selectmen's perspective, no. I mean, this is the agreement that we negotiated and approved. I believe it was a 5-1 vote. So we're waiting on the property owner to sign at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was there any other business or anything else anyone wanted to raise? Okay. Again, thank you to the work group for the progress on the ag lease. Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.